speaker I want to bring up is Teresa Beckmeyer. Teresa is the grassroots director for the Texas Freedom Caucus, which we are so blessed to have here in Texas. Am I right? Yes. So Teresa is giving up her time to be here tonight to talk with you about some of the priorities of the Freedom Caucus and also to gather some input. So Teresa, thank you so much. Thank you, Rachel. Okay. It's good to be here. I've been here before in other capacities speaking to y'all, and it's good to be back with you. Now I'm working for the Texas Freedom Caucus, and I think most of y'all probably know who a lot of the members of the Freedom Caucus are, but we're going to talk a little bit about what they do and why they're so important to our state. Okay, there are 12 members of the Texas Freedom Caucus. They started the caucus about the middle of last session. The first three up here, does this have a pointer on it?
It does. Very top button. 1 second.
Okay. The first three guys right here, I call these the rule guys. You have Kyle Biederman, he's from Fredericksburg, Matt Shakers from Tyler, and Mike Lane from Granbury. His district goes all the way over to Eastland County. So that's, some people call that West Texas, but I'm from West Texas, which is out, I'm between Abilene and Midland, so I really don't consider that West Texas. But we have Valerie Swanson and Briscoe Kane, who are from the Houston area. And then all of these guys right down here are from the DFW area. So y'all have done an excellent job of putting some very conservative members in our Texas House. When these guys came together and started the Freedom Caucus, they had a mission. And I want to read this because I think this is excellent. The mission of the Freedom Caucus is that we recognize that the United States was founded upon the truth that our inalienable rights are given to us by God, that government is instituted by God to protect those rights while deriving its authority from the people, and that the U.S. and Texas constitutions are the guiding limits on government actions. Recognizing this truth, the Texas Freedom Caucus is founded in the Texas House of Representatives with the mission to amplify the voice of liberty-minded grassroots Texans who want bold action to protect life, strengthen families, defend the U.S. and Texas Bills of Rights, restrain government, and revitalize personal and economic freedoms in the state of Texas. Now, does that sound like something you can all agree with? Yeah. Yes, we need guys down there that have that mission. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, in the 85th session, they did have some priorities, and these, in the 80, now we're coming up, the next one's going to be the 86. Now this is what we had last time. We had the sanctity of life, the freedom of religion, speech, and conscience, the right to keep and bear arms, prevent illegal immigration, fiscal restraint and budget reform, education reform, public safety and criminal justice, and government and ethics reform. Now right now, last month, I started working for them in August. So since August, I've been going around all over the state, finding out from different people what they wanted them to work on. And I see a lot of you here tonight that y'all have filled out the form and sent in, or I've called you on the phone or talked to you by email. So right now we're compiling all of that information, and they're about to be coming out with their priorities for the 86. Now last session, these were the priorities, and we're going to go over a little bit of what their accomplishments were. In illegal immigration, they strengthened and passed the sanctuary city legislation. Texas, because of the Freedom Caucus, now has one of the strongest sanctuary cities laws in the United States. That bill started over in the House with Senator Charles Perry. When it came over, in the Senate, when it came over to the House, when it went into the committee, they stripped everything out of it that made it strong, and it was just very watered down. When it got to the floor, the Freedom Caucus was able to put everything that had been stripped out, they put it back in, and they were able to pass it. So that's, wonderful. If we would have had the Freedom Caucus, we would not have that. The sanctity of life, they helped pass the dismemberment abortion ban. Another one of Charles Perry's bill passed the Senate. It got over to the House. They couldn't get it out of the committee into the floor. But what they did is the Freedom Caucus took this portions of the dismemberment abortion ban, and they helped Representative Stephanie Click, to get it amended on to another bill, and they got it passed. So we have that. They also helped pass budget provisions increasing funding for alternatives to abortion, and they helped defund Planned Parenthood affiliates. Those are businesses that do business with Planned Parenthood. They helped to fund those. They passed things that had to do with freedom of religion, conscience, and speech. They were able to put sunset bill amendments, which would allow exemptions for doctors, lawyers, and pharmacists. Like if there was something that they were going to have to do in their job that went against their religious beliefs, they were passed legislation that would allow them to not have to comply with that. Also, they helped Representative James Frank pass a bill that protected religious-based adoption agency protections. Now this, let me tell you what was happening with this. If you have like the Catholic Charities, it's a foster home, and they take kids in. If a child comes to them, a girl comes to them at 16 and she wants to have an abortion, they were going to make it to where they could not stop her from having an abortion, even though it gets against all the religious beliefs of that foster home because it is associated with the Catholic Church. This bill that was passed now will allow them to tell her that she cannot have the adoption. They don't have to help her do that now. Fiscal restraint and budget reform, they defeated corporate welfare provisions in the budget. They redirected money to conservative parties such as pro-life. They eliminated Railroad Commission Alternative Fuel Subsidy Program, and that was, we were subsidizing natural gas programs. So they stopped that. Okay, other accomplishments. How many of you have heard of the Mother's Day Massacre? Okay, this was amazing. I went into this YouTube video right here. If y'all haven't seen their press conference on this, I suggest that you go here and watch it. It is, if you want to get fired up and you want to be proud of these guys and realize that somebody is in Austin fighting for you, go watch that press conference. This started coming together in the middle of the afternoon on Thursday before Mother's Day. There was a 12 o'clock midnight deadline looming. Bills were backed up from the previous Saturday's calendar, many of which were conservative legislation. Members of the caucus, their bills were removed from the local and consent calendar, and they were moved to the general calendar, giving them no hope of ever coming to the floor. Also, Representative Scott Sanford had bills that were taken off, and he's not a member of the caucus, but he also had bills that were removed. The caucus and Representative Sanford sent a letter to leadership of their intent to kill 120 bills on the local and consent calendar through parliamentary maneuvering if conservative legislation was not moved forward. Their reasons were due to removal of their bills from the local and consent calendar, selective enforcement of rules and retaliation by the leadership team. They asked that their bills be put back on the local and consent calendar. Do y'all know what the local and consent calendar is? Do y'all understand what that is? I'm seeing some and some going this. What that is, that's a calendar where bills that only have to do with that representative's district. That would be like if your representative took a bill down there that had to deal with the hospital district in your town, or if they wanted to do a convention center in your town that had something to do with the state. They're usually, those bills just go right through. Nobody opposes them because they only affect that member's district. They don't affect other members of the state. So when the Freedom Caucus said that they were going to kill, it's very easy to kill bills off the local and consent calendar too. All you have to do is get up and speak, I think it's 5 or 10 minutes, and you can kill it, really easy. So, of course, they did not put the members' bills back on the local and consent calendar. So what the caucus did is they called a press conference that sent shockwaves across Texas. They announced their intentions publicly. And I will tell you this, at that time I was executive director for Lone Star Voice, and I Facebook Lived it. But Kennedy shared my Facebook Live. I had 34,000 views on that Facebook Live from this press conference. It went everywhere, and if you go and Google the Mother's Day Massacre, you got to see all the newspaper articles that come up. It went everywhere. This stand caused the Texas Freedom Caucus to become a force to be reckoned with. They stood their ground, and it caused those around them to see that they weren't playing games and they meant what they said. The Texas Tribune reported, "It was a remarkable act of rebellion, even for a chamber that is not unfamiliar with inter-party pushback." I wonder if when the Patriots and the Boston Tea Party, I wonder if that's what the newspaper said about them. That's what that reminded me of. Okay, the unintended consequences that the leadership didn't realize is that when they killed all these bills, it caused another bill, it caused something to get sunsetted. The Texas Medical Board was sunsetted because of this maneuver. And because of that, it enabled Dan Patrick to be able to have leverage to call the special session, because without the special session, the Texas Medical Board, it went out of existence. They had to call it to get them back in. Whoops. I will learn how to run this before we get done here. Other accomplishments. The Republican Party of Texas platform requires that the Republican Speaker of the House candidate be elected from Republican members of the House. That's in our platform, and it has never been done. We all know that when the current Speaker was elected, he was elected with 11 Democrats and a handful of Republicans. The Texas House Republican Caucus bylaws did not contain a way to carry this out. Well, members of the Freedom Caucus realized this, and so what they did, they got together, and on August 3rd, along with 2 other House reps, they sent a letter to the chair of the Texas House Republican Caucus asking that he call a meeting of the whole caucus to discuss bylaw changes that dealt with how the caucus would select a new chair candidate. And he did. They had, I think their first meeting was either in September or October of last year. They had another one this last September, and the final meeting before the session starts will be December, and they will be electing a candidate out of the Republican caucus that will go to the floor to be voted on in January. So hopefully with this process, we are going to have a hope of getting a speaker that will be fair and will abide by House rules and let everyone have equal chance to get their bills heard. Okay, where do they go from here? Like I said, legislative priorities are currently being developed. The Texas Freedom Caucus wants to hear from you and will need your input and support during the upcoming session. Now I'm like the grassroots liaison. And on that back table back there is my business card. We also have a sheet. If you want to be kept up to date about what they're doing, please sign up so that we can subscribe you to the website. Also, there is a sheet, and I hope some of you picked it up. It has a picture of the Freedom Caucus. If you turn that over on the back side, it shows all of the priorities that they were working on last session. Y'all, we all know, if you keep up with what's going on in Austin at all, you know that not all the time, there's many times down there that things that happen are not in our best interest, okay? These guys right here are our hope. We need to support them. With the Freedom Caucus and senators like Senator Burton and others that work along with her over in the Senate, we have a chance to return Texas to true liberty and freedom for all of us. So it's really important that we get behind these guys and support them. And I'm so glad y'all came tonight, because Rachel is about to tell y'all about how you testify in Austin. It's so important. We can come to meetings and we can listen to this stuff, but if we do not get active and we don't put boots on the ground, whether it's block walking right now, but when session starts, we need y'all in Austin. We need y'all testifying. We need you talking to these offices. So Rachel's going to take over right now and explain to you how that happens.
Thank you so much, Teresa. So yes, right now, boots on the ground is block walking. It's getting the candidates elected, the people who will champion the things we want. And as soon as elections finish, we switch gears to legislative session, right? And we promote the things we care about. How many people do I have here who care about guns and gun rights? Whether or not, okay, there we go, right? Basically everybody in the room. I'm sure there are plenty of other things you care about too, and I'm glad, because we need people fighting on all the fronts for all the liberty things, right? We can't just focus on one. So we have people everywhere. But gun rights is the thing that I am most primarily focused on. I am the Texas Director for Gun Owners of America. So I'm working here in Texas on legislation such as constitutional carry and ending gun-free zones. And constitutional carry means if you own the firearm, you legally possess it, nothing in the law says you can't have it, you can also carry that firearm. You don't have to go ask the government for permission to carry it. Who's with me on constitutional carry? Right, let's go make it happen, right? Do you know how far behind Texas is on gun rights? Okay, here's how far behind we are. There are currently 13 states who recognize constitutional carry. Guess what? Texas isn't among them. There are 31 states who recognize unlicensed open carry. So if you don't have a permit, you can still open carry your handgun, you just can't conceal it. Texas is not on one of those 31. Texas was the 45th state to pass licensed open carry. So let that sink in. Let's work to make sure we are not the 45th state to pass constitutional carry, because I don't want to be stuck with New York and California again, and Illinois, right? So it's time for Texas to take the lead, and that starts with the grassroots. For years, as a grassroots volunteer activist, I've always said, all of us grassroots, we're the ones, and you are the ones who are most qualified to make your opinion known to your legislators. And now, as one of Texas's newest lobbyists, I'm still going to tell you the same thing. You are the ones most qualified to make your voice heard to your legislators. Not the lobbyists, not us lobbyists. They should be listening to you. And so here are the secrets of how you can do that. First, a quick story. Not too long ago, I was in a conversation. In this conversation, there was a girl saying all kinds of things about guns that probably most of us here, I think every single one of us here would disagree with. Things like, oh, it's always stupid and dangerous to carry a gun because they just blow up randomly. And things like, oh, you're never going to need a gun to defend yourself. And even if you do, the bad guy's going to get a hold of it and, you know, it's going to be worthless to you anyway. So, because of that, nobody should ever carry a gun. Anybody ever heard anybody say things like that? Yeah, we hear it, right? Okay, so before I tell you how I responded, how might you have responded in that situation? Anybody? What? You're wrong? Yeah, pretty much. What? Anybody else? Yes?
I called my sister-in-law a stupid idiot.
Called him a stupid idiot? Okay. What else? Wasn't the right thing to do. Okay, so we're admitting that wasn't the right thing. Okay. Anybody else?
With that, the gun is the best and pretty much only equalizer we have now.
Gun is the equalizer, right?
You have two choices with this. It'll be taken away. Okay, you have two choices. Someone is going to do you or your loved ones harm.
Someone's going to do you harm. You got two choices. Right.
Two choices. You have a gun or you don't have a gun.
Have a gun or you don't. All right. Y'all want to know how I responded in that conversation? Okay. I was that girl making those statements. I'm glad I wasn't called a stupid idiot. I'm glad that I was walked through the process for why that was wrong and why I could shape my beliefs on truth instead of on lies. And I'm telling you this story for a couple of reasons. Number one, because you need to know the way you respond to people who disagree with you can have a profound impact on their lives, but also on public policy. That's what happened in my case. But also, you need to know what we're up against. See, when I made those statements, I wasn't a rabid liberal. I wasn't a liberal at all. I was a conservative. I was raised Republican. I block-walked for candidates when I was 5 years old. I joined the Republican Women's Club when I was a teenager. I was a state convention delegate the very first time I was old enough to be one, and have been many times since then. I was a conservative. But I was grossly misinformed about what a gun was, and because of that, I was this close to wanting a full-out gun ban as a conservative. And those are the kinds of people we encounter, and those are the kinds of people we need to know how to talk to. And honestly, that's the attitude we're going to run up against in the legislature a lot as well. So that's about as much as I'm going to talk about gun rights here tonight. I want to move into the process for what do we do about that. But as I continue, keep in mind whether it's gun rights you're interested in or any other particular item, this is the process by which we make change happen. So we're going to talk about bill survival. We're going to talk about TLO, which is a website. That's the most tedious segment, but it's also, people say, the most helpful in finding information and doing activism from home. Because how many of y'all can realistically be at the Capitol every single week during session? Anybody? Nobody, right? That's not realistic. Okay, how many of y'all can come down to the Capitol in Austin one time, one day between January and May? That's much more realistic. Okay, keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you have a telephone and if you have access to any kind of internet. Okay, all of y'all are qualified, and TLO is your lifeline for being the activist who doesn't have to be in Austin all the time, but you can still make change happen. Number 3, finding your lawyer hat. How many attorneys do we have here? What, you didn't know that was a qualification for being an advocate? Well, guess what? It's not. Everybody can be an advocate. You just need to know how to read legislation. Okay, we do have some. Awesome. Now my attendance by attorneys is now double at my events. All right, and then committee hearings and testimony. That is your invitation, the one time for each issue that the Texas legislature invites everybody in Texas to come give your opinion on record on that issue. And if you don't show up, are you kind of forfeiting your chance to speak on record when they invited you? But if you show up, you can do so much good. So we'll talk through that. All right, so Bill Survival 101. This is a picture of the life of a bill all the way through session. So I really feel like a bill is always just one painful jaw stamp away from death the whole way through session. Because it's a lot easier to kill a bill than it is to pass it. And that's good. That's exactly the way it should be. But it means we work a little bit harder to make the good bills pass. And we have to know the process. So, if you were a bill and you did not want to die, this is what you have to do to stay alive. You have to go all the way through the House, it's on the left side. You have to go all the way through the Senate, this is on the right side. And then it has to go to the governor. So those 3 things, and there are several different orders. It can start out in the House and go all the way through the House. And then it can be sent to the Senate and go through the Senate. And then to the governor. Or vice versa. It can start in the Senate, pass the Senate, and then be sent to the House, and then on to the governor. Or you can have 2 identical or very similar bills at the same time, called companion bills, going through the House and the Senate at the same time. And then when both chambers have passed it, then it goes to the governor. So I'm going to give you the one example of a bill that starts in the House. And when I finish this, inevitably somebody's going to say, but does it have to start in the House? So what's the answer? No. I'm just giving you one example because you don't want to hear the whole same thing 3 times in a row. So you have a bill that gets filed. And elections are when? What date? November 6th. Good. So about a week later, filing starts. Filing starts in the middle of November. The legislative session starts January 8th, and filing continues for 60 more days. So filing is middle of November through about the beginning of March. Bills are filed during that time. I think last time there were about 6,000 bills filed in the House, so that's a lot of bills to get filed. So we're glad they don't all pass, right? Okay, so the bill is filed. The next thing that happens is the Speaker of the House brings it up. It's called first reading, and all they do is send it to a committee. So this happens after the session is started and after the committees are established, and they are established by the Speaker of the House. Okay, so the bill is sent to a committee, maybe the Homeland Security Committee, or Criminal Justice, or State Affairs, or County Affairs, or Health and Human Services, or Education, okay? So it's by subject matter. And then the committee, at that point, notice already there's been one person who has a chance to kill a bill. If the Speaker of the House doesn't refer it to a committee, boom, it's dead. One person has the power. Okay, in committee, the one person has the power twice to kill a bill. So if the bill is not brought up for a hearing, it's dead. But say he brings it up for a hearing, has the hearing, he then has to bring it up for a vote. And if the committee chair doesn't bring the bill up for a vote, it's dead again. So again, 2 times in that committee where one person can decide to kill a bill. Those are the choke points, and those are the times we especially need to be active in getting a bill through. All right, so suppose it passes through committee, guess where it goes next? To Calendars Committee. Calendars Committee was started as a logistical function, just to put a bill on the calendars to decide when they're going to talk about it. It's become a gatekeeper, a way of killing bills, because right now, anybody on that committee can anonymously tag a bill and kill it, and it's dead, and you don't even know who killed it. So you can't even come after them the next election cycle. Isn't that great? Yeah, not so much. So that's the calendars committee. And so again, one person has the power to kill a bill. But supposing this bill makes it through calendars, it then goes to the House floor for second reading, which is where they debate on the bill and offer amendments, and sometimes it's a lengthy process. And then third reading, which is usually just a ceremonial vote, and assuming it makes it all the way that far, it's now passed the House. Then it would get sent to the Senate, assuming there wasn't a campaigning bill at the same time. So gets sent to the Senate, that constitutes filing, and then instead of having a speaker of the Senate, there's the lieutenant governor. And the lieutenant governor is responsible for assigning that bill to a committee, again, by subject matter. The committee chair then has the same responsibilities, bring it up for a hearing, and then bring it up for a vote to see if it gets out of committee. Assuming it makes it through those checkpoints, they don't have a calendars committee, but again, it's back to the lieutenant governor to decide when to put it on the calendar. So if the lieutenant governor decides not to, yes, that would be dead. But if he puts it on the calendar to go to the floor, then it goes to the floor for second reading and third reading. Same process, basically. And then if it passes there, it's now passed the Senate. Now, supposing they passed exactly the same wording, they didn't amend it, right? So House and Senate both passed it, then it goes to the governor, he can sign it, or he can choose to veto it, and the legislature has 10 days to override that veto with a 2/3 vote, assuming they're still in session. So again, another time where one person does have the power to kill a bill, if he vetoes it. But he doesn't, he signs it, and then it passes, and it's passed into law. Now, suppose the House passed one version, and the Senate passed a different version. They amended it differently on the floor, right? So it's different wording. Then they have to have what's called a conference committee to come together and discuss the changes and decide how to merge it together into one unified bill that both the House and the Senate sign off on. And supposing they do that, and they can agree on it and still pass it, then that bill would go to the governor and be signed. So that is the basic bill process. Are you noticing a lot of times when one person has the power to kill a bill? Yeah, what do you think about that? It's not really what you hoped for, right? Okay, so, and also something else to note is in the calendars committee, if the bill sits in calendars committee for 30 days, there is a way that a legislator can make a motion to try to get it out. But that's 30 days. And if we have a 140-day session and it doesn't even make it to calendars committee till the end of that 30-day waiting period is like a death sentence, basically. So consider this. How many of y'all heard about speaker issues? Anybody? We've heard talk about this, right? Okay. I do not deny the speaker has a lot of power and the speaker matters, especially if you think of them setting up committees and assigning committee chairs. But guess what else? Do you know why the calendars committee has so much power? Do you know why all of these committee chairs have so much power? Do you know why everything functions the way it does? In large part because of the rules that the members set. So the very first day of session, there's going to be the vote for speaker. I bet you everybody's going to tune into that live stream. They're going to be so interested in it. And then, after the live stream of the speaker finishes, everybody's going to go on about their merry business. What's going to happen next may be more important than the speaker vote. What happens next is the vote on the House rules. And so I'm going to be looking for things that are fair rules. The kind of rules you want, whether it's your guy in charge or not your guy in charge, right? Because we shouldn't have bills passing just because their author happened to be friends and buddies with the person who is speaker, right? Bills should be passing on their merits, or dying on their lack of merits, not on political gains. And so I'll be looking for rules like maybe moving that 30-day deadline down to a lot less, maybe a 7-day deadline. Maybe rules where if there's enough support behind a bill and you have the majority of the House members signed on to it, that bill gets a path through without one person being able to kill it. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping to actually score legislators on. I'll be putting out more information. I'll be asking you to call your legislators, let them know you're watching their votes on the bill, on the House rules, and you care about that, and you, as a voter, will be watching that and scoring them. So, are there any other questions on bill process? What do we see here? Berlin Wall. Why am I showing you the Berlin Wall? Something that has always struck me since I heard it. After the Berlin Wall fell, I'm told that there were people who were so cruelly imprisoned under that tyranny who said, you know what we realize now? You know, we were waiting for that wall to fall, and we were hoping it would fall, and we all said, is there any way it could? And now we realize, if a few of us had gotten together and decided we wanted to get through that wall, and we wanted to topple it, we could have done it. We could have gotten 50, 100, maybe even 20, and swarmed one guard post and made it through that wall to freedom and defended liberty. But what would it have cost them? Some of them, their lives. Some of them would have been shot to death. But the rest of them would have made it to freedom. And I'm telling you that for a couple of reasons. So first of all, if anybody asks, well, can we pass constitutional carry? Well, can we do this? Can this person win? Of course, the answer is always yes, if enough people band together and decide to do it. And if they don't, then we won't. It's as simple as that. If all the people who said, can we do this, actually got up and did it, it would happen, most of the time. The other thing is this. There are so many times in history when standing up for your right to keep and bear arms, I'm thinking Lexington Green, I'm thinking Alamo, I'm thinking San Jacinto or Gonzales, I'm thinking Berlin Wall. When standing up for your liberties meant the risk of getting shot to death. Right now, what's the price of standing up for your liberties? A little bit of your time, a little bit of your money, that's it. So what are we waiting for? If we're not standing up now and calling our legislators and going to Austin one day through the session, are we waiting until the price is getting shot to death? Really, seriously. It's not a big price to pay. So consider that next time you're wondering if it's really worth the effort. Okay, your lifeline is TLO. So mark this down, capital.texas.gov. Capital with an O.texas.gov. This is a website that is, I think, one of the best things that our government does. It's really awesome. And so this is what it looks like in the front. You will want to know how to work this website so you can find all the information you need to about the things you care about during session. Easily, anytime, from home, very quickly. So the first thing you want to do is go to My TLO at the top and you want to register. Do not use your junk email address. I promise they don't spam you. They only send what you ask for. So give them your real email address, sign up for an account. Next, actually let's go back to that home page. So the home page, you can see links for the House and the Senate on the left. You can see a search pane that we're going to zoom up on in a minute. On the right side, you can click and see any legislative activity happening today, right now. So you can see videos of the House floor, the Senate floor. You can see today's meetings. You can see today's filed bills, things like that. So you want to take a look at that, throughout session. All right, let's zoom up on that search pane. If I know the bill that I want to look up, for example, last session we had HB 375 for constitutional carry. You can just type in HB 375, that's your bill number. Make sure it's the current legislature. These screenshots were during last session, still the current session, so 85R. Next, starting in January, it will be 86R, 86 legislature, regular session, 2019. So, but this was for 2017, HB 375, hit go, and you're there and you see all the information about the bill, right from the homepage. If you're not sure what the bill number is, my favorite search that I use all the time is a text search. Now note that there are a lot of other searches, like a bill lookup. You can see who, I know somebody offered a bill, I don't know what it's about, I'm going to go see all the bills authored by my representative. You can do that too. But take a look at the text search. This is what that looks like. Maybe. There we go. All right. So if I'm going to search for any bill that has the words handgun, firearm, and knife, this is my search, and let's see what that looks like. All right. I came up with 139 matches. So this screenshot was taken right towards the end of filing last session. So when they were almost done filing bills, a couple weeks away from it, there were 139 bills on firearms, handguns, and knives. And if you see that second one down there, that was HB 375. It says, relating to providing for the carrying of handguns without a license and to related offenses and penalties. Okay, so that's our constitutional carry bill. So to see the information, you're going to click that Texas icon and click history. And this is what it looks like. You see the last action. A few days earlier, before the screenshot was taken, it was referred to a committee. You see all the people signed on to the bill. And I want to make a quick note about that. Y'all hear a lot about signing on to a bill, right? Putting your name on a bill. This is literally what it means. Those people's names are there because they signed on to a bill. when you're talking to a legislator and you want them to support an issue, don't just ask them to go vote for it on the floor. Because we've already seen all the ways bills don't get to the floor, right? Okay, so if you go talk to them and they say, you know what, if that makes it to the floor, of course I'll vote for it. Do you know what that's probably code for? It's code for, I got a buddy down the hall who will make sure that bill never gets to the floor so I can make you this promise and I'm never going to have to do anything about it. It very well might mean that. Okay, or if they say, you know what, they haven't asked me to sign on. I would if they did, but they haven't asked me. Do not take that for an answer because guess what? Anybody can go sign on to the bill. So don't let them give you that. If you want somebody to support an issue, walk into their office, ask them to put their name on the bill, and get enough of their constituents to call in and ask them to put their name on the bill to let them know you're watching. And you have enough of you, there are enough of you who could actually affect their elections next time. So let them know that. All right, later on we see, at the bottom we see the actions, all the things that had happened. The bill was filed in November 16th. It had its first reading and a committee referral not until February 16th. So that was over a month after the session started. It took that long for the speaker to actually set the committees and bring the bill up and assign it to a committee. It had not had a hearing yet at this time. So it was assigned to the Homeland Security Public Safety Committee. Click there and you see this page. You see the committee chair and the vice chair and the members. Make a quick note that this is the current committee makeup. But after elections, we get new legislators, and when the session starts, we have new committee makeups. So that will change, most likely. You can see the links for the bills in and out of committee, and you can see the committee meetings. So let's take a look at those bills in and out of the committee. There were 31 assigned to the committee at this time, and basically this is a good way to see, okay, hey, what does this committee even look at? Oh, okay, it's this kind of bills. If you look at the meetings, no meetings have been scheduled for Homeland Security Committee. I don't think any of the House committees have even started meeting by the middle or end of February last time, but hopefully we can start moving maybe a little faster. This is one of the Senate committees that have started meeting, so this is what their meetings page looks like. You see the date and the time of the committee hearing. On the right side, you see the hearing notice. So if you're wondering, hey, when is this committee going to start meeting? When is the hearing going to be scheduled so I can show up and talk at it maybe? Well, you get 3 days notice. The hearing is noticed when they post the notice on this page, usually about 3 days in advance. A lot of times they'll do it like Sunday night for the upcoming week, something like that. But the requirement is typically 3 days notice. So if you don't want to just sit there at your computer all day refreshing the screen, I'm going to show you how to set up an automatic alert so you can get notified. The minutes are there, and the witness list. I'd like to take a look at the witness list. Witness lists are great. You can see how many people testified for or against. So it lists people who actually testified orally, and the people who provided written testimony, and lists them for and against. And it also lists the people who registered on the bill but didn't actually testify. So even if you're not able to stay long enough to testify on a bill, maybe you're there all day and you're in one hearing room, but you can also go register for several of the others. That's really useful because, again, you see that many people on record. And let me tell you, in Austin, okay, Austin is a blueberry, right? You look at the map of like the reds and the blues. Austin's got liberal blueberry that has all the anti-gun people who come over from UT just down the road, the Moms Man Action people. For all the gun bills, we get so many Moms Man Action people who think that they speak for all females. And I want all of us who believe in gun rights to show up and let them know that they do not speak for all females, right? But it takes more sacrifice for people around the rest of the state, right? You have to drive in. You're not in Austin. But let me tell you, it's so heartening to see women who are showing up who support gun rights, and men, and young people, and old people, and everybody in between. Those people showing up help get rid of the mindset that, oh, all the anti-gun people here speak for Texas. They don't. They speak for Austin a lot of the time, not even all of Austin. So that's why it's important for people all over the state to show up. All right, moving along.
Rachel, I have a question, if it's
Yeah.
okay. Do you think it carries more weight to register as representing a group like Northeast Texas?
Good question. Okay, so does it carry more weight to register representing an organization? Yes, it does. So when I started my activism, I started the organization Texas Firearms Freedom. It was not an official, filed organization with the board. It was me, and I had a website, and I had a title, and I had a business card. And so I got to put that down as Rachel Malone for Texas Firearms Freedom. And I grew an email list, and I did all of that as much as I could. But yes, it helps to have that. So even if it's just a few of you, and you're able to say, yes, we all agree on this, I'm going to go with this title. That's good. Your Project Fort Worth. If you have an agreement as a group, however your group functions, where members can go testify representing the group for certain things, that's great. That helps people know that it's not just one random person. You are representing an established group who, again, can eventually affect elections. That means something. So yeah, absolutely it does. For sure. All right, so you can take a look at the committee meetings page. I'm not going to talk about this, but there's so much you can look up if you're interested in nerding out about committees. And then let's talk quick about the alerts. So you go to My TLO and you hit the alerts. And this is where after sessions start, or after filing starts, and you have your list of bills. Maybe I'll send out a list of bills, look, here are all the gun bills. You say, oh, these top 3, I really care about those, I want to track them. And then a pro-life organization sends out bills, and the tax bills, and the property rights, and everything else, right? And so you come up with your own personal bill list of the bills you care about, and you can put those onto this list. You enter the bill number. I like alerts for any category, and you write your comments so you know what bill that was. Add the bill, you add as many as you want, and make sure you click save, because don't be like me and lose them all because you forgot to hit save. So that's your bill alert list, and the tab coupled to the right, you can also get committee notices exactly the same way. So if you're tracking education issues, you're probably going to want to notice every time the education committee meets, right? So go get that. Or Homeland Security would be for guns. Things like that. So take a look at that. Any questions about the website, about the TLO website? Capital.texas.gov. So that is your lifeline. If you want to know anything about a bill or what's been filed or what's happening right now, it's probably on TLO. You just have to know how to find it. All right, finding your lawyer hat, reading and understanding bills. So here's the way that bills are written, and this is gross oversimplification and a little bit cheesy, but this is my example that I think helps us sort of start to wade through the bills. So you might have a bill or a law that says something like, let's say, for example, no one may wear a red shirt. And I would actually say a person commits an offense if the person wears a red shirt. That would be the language, right? Okay, so the next clause says, but that shall not apply to anybody over the age of 65. And the next one says, it shall also not apply to anybody in any municipality over 75,000 people or under 5,000 people, unless the city council shall make the law, whatever, and using legal words, okay? And the next one says, also this shall not apply to anybody who is currently in a place of business licensed for whatever licensor, okay? And then it says, also, this shall not be applicable to anybody who has a license to wear a red shirt. And then it goes on, we have more clauses like that. And then at the very end it says, this shall not apply to anybody in Texas. And what did that just do? Doesn't mean anything, right? Okay, why do we end up with law? Again, silly example, there's not something like that, but you might see things sort of similar. Why? They didn't just sit and write it all at the same time. They started with that first, always takes a lot to do this, and then, well, this is an exception, and that's an exception, and this is another one, and then we're going to add this program here, so we have to change it here, right? So you see all the changes throughout it. So you have to read to the end. So with that understanding, let's jump in. This is my particular method for how I try to understand bills. I'm not going to say it's always easy, but it is possible, and it's approachable, and I want you to know that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan the bill. Actually, I need to go back. Why are we not going? Where do I need to point this? Where is it at the computer?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. And we're going slowly. Yeah, we don't want to go back. Almost there. Okay, bill page, there we go. So if you can see, the second tab over is the text, and So you go to the bill page and then you click on the text tab in order to see the full text of the bill. And I don't have one up here for you, but that's where you would go to find the text. So the first thing you're going to do is go read that text of the bill, but don't actually read the whole bill. So my method is I just go through and I make a note of, for every section of the bill, what section of what code does it affect. So I'm going to write down, in the constitutional carry bill, it had 18 sections. So the first section was just basically the title of the bill. The second section said Penal Code, Chapter 46 of the Penal Code, 4603, shall be amended by amending subsection A to say blah, 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 whatever. All I'm going to do is write down Penal Code 4603, amend subsection A. That's all. And then the next one said, Penal Code 46035, amend subsections, whatever subsections. I'm just going to write down those numbers of the penal code, or of the government code, or local code, or elections code, right? I'm going to write down what is the code, what is the number that's affected, what subsection. I'm not even reading what the bill says. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go and read the current statute, read the law. And the easiest way to do this is literally just Google it. So Google Penal Code 46.03 and find the website that's the .gov website. And you'll be able to read that code. And yes, it looks like legalese, but just parse it down. Find the verb, right? Like, how do you diagram a sentence? Okay? Like, that's literally it. Who and what, right? Find the subject, find the verb, then piece together all the other clauses. You can do it. You can read it. It's a little more complex, but you can do it. Get your highlighter out, print it up if you need to. So see what the code actually says right now. And then once you see what it says, for example, 4602 says a person commits an offense, and this is not an exact quote, so I'm not a lawyer, so all the disclaimers, right? Person commits an offense if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly carries a handgun on or about his person, and the person is not in his vehicle, in a watercraft, or en route to his vehicle, etc. So what does it say? Person commits an offense means, essentially, in layperson's terms, it's against the law. What is against the law? To carry a handgun, unless you're in your car, en route to your car, in your boat, use it at other places. Right? Okay, so that's what the law says. And it says, commit offense if you carry a handgun, or like illegal knife or club. So this law, if you go back to the bill that's being filed, you see that subsection is amended by striking out. It's a strikeout on handgun, which means what? Now that we know what it says it's against the law to carry a handgun, unless you make exceptions. If you take out the handgun, it's now not against the law to carry the handgun anymore, right? So that's how you wade through that bill and wade through that law. And yes, it gets more complicated, but that's the basic essence of it. So scan the bill, note the code changes, read those current codes to see what does it say, and then see what would be changed about it. The underlines are the new things being added, the strikeouts are the things being taken away. Sometimes at the end it'll also say all these things are repealed. So you go and read those and say, okay, this would be repealed, it wouldn't be there anymore. Make sure you take really good notes the first time you read through a bill, because you don't want to have to go through the process again. Trust me on that one. Okay, how many of y'all think you have time to go through that whole method for every single issue you might ever be concerned with? Yeah, me neither. I'm with you on that. So what do? We find the cheat sheets. TLO has some analysis. Again, go to that bill page, the text page, and you can read some of those. Another thing I'd love to do is call the bill author. Say, hey, I kind of like your bill, or I think I might be interested. Could you please send me the one-pager? You get a lot of information. It's a lot easier to read, like one page with a few bullet points. And you can see what their intent is. What are they promoting about the bill? Also check with issue organizations. Like for guns, I will be putting out analysis, because I will have to go through read all the gun bills. So hopefully you don't have to. I can put out the analysis of what I believe the bill does, and if I like it or not, so you can know that. At the end of the day, you got to fact check if you really care about it. So if everybody is going to have some type of bias or some type of opinion inserted, even if it's supposed to be a factual analysis. But hopefully my analysis will be good for the gun bills, so you can use that. Hopefully you find other issue organizations, or you come together as a group. Say, okay, these 5 people are going to look at these issues, and these are going to look at these other bills, etc. So you can work with each other on that. Any questions about reading a bill? All right, so moving on, interacting with legislators. First of all, where do you find them? I like to go to the Texas Trib site. So if you have your phone out, go there now. TexasTribune.org/directory. Or the great thing is, if you Google any representative or senator's name, most likely the first or second page that comes up will be that Texas Trib page on them. Unless they have a super common name like, John Smith or something. Then there might be others. But so if you Google Connie Burton right now, you would probably come up with one of the very top searches. They're going to be Connie Burton at Texas Trib. So you see her page there, it's going to have a picture. So you can see what the representative or senator looks like. It's going to have a list of their, or a link to their district. So you can click on the link for the district, and you can see the map. You can see all the zip codes in the district. So if you have a mailing list, you can match it up to that. It's going to have all the school districts. So many, all the city names, so many things about that district. Go back to her page, for example, and you'll see phone numbers, office number, what committees is she on, who the staffers are, the staffer's email addresses, so much information. So that's a wealth of information. It's very easy to find, very easy to use. I use it all the time, like all day long, every day, to find information that I need. Okay, so representatives have a capital office and a district office. So since you're not right there in Austin, it's probably going to be easier to go to the district office if you want meetings. So now is the time, before session starts, if you want a meeting with your representative, call them up and ask them. If you want a meeting with your legislator, call the district office and say, I would like a meeting with my representative so I can tell them things I'm interested in. And that's great. Also try to find them at town halls or club meetings. Like tonight was a great time to meet with Connie because she was here, right? When you go to forums like that, have a question prepared. And I don't like to do trick questions. I just like to ask them straight up. Would you support this issue? Or what are your thoughts on constitutional carry? Or would you be willing to sign on to a bill for allowing all license holders to carry in K through 12 schools? Things like that. So ask them straight up what the thing is that you want. I like to record it so you have it on record, so you know what the answer was. You can go back and look at it later. Now, if you call and ask for a meeting, and they say, well, we can give you a meeting with the chief of staff or the legislative director, say yes, you want to do that. Also, get to know their district director, get to know their capital office staff, get to know the staffers. The staffers are the ones who go read all the bills and give the recommendations, right? They're the ones who actually have a lot of the power. Get to know them, be friends with them, be nice to them, take them breakfast tacos, I don't know, be real, be human. Get to know them and they'll be able to meet with you and help you out with information. And this is not just for your own representatives, this would also be for committee chair offices. Get to know them, talk with them, introduce yourself, stop by the office if you're at the Capitol. That's always a good thing to do. All right, effectiveness level. So here are all a lot of the various ways of connecting with and speaking to your representatives and senators. So you can send an email or call or letter, and I rank those basically the same. I rank them at least effective, but I want to clarify. What's actually least effective is nothing, right? So all of these are light years ahead of doing nothing. So just because I say email and calling and letter writing are the least effective, that doesn't mean they're not effective, okay? They're just maybe not as effective as one person doing the rest. Here's the other thing about emails and phone calls. If it's one person just calling up with an email or phone call, it's not going to necessarily have a lot of sway. If it's a ton of people, that's where it gets so much sway, right? It's the sways in the numbers. Other thing is, if you email or call, if you call, you're never going to talk to your rep, like basically never. I think there's one rep I've ever had who literally just answered his office phone. Jonathan Stigler won't answer his office phone. Hi, this is Jonathan. I'm like, well, I was really calling to talk to a staffer. I don't want to take your time. But if you're going to talk to a staffer and just tell them, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm a constituent, or if it's a committee chair, you don't have to be a constituent. I'm calling to ask you to please vote yes on this bill, or add your name to this bill, or vote for this amendment, whatever the thing is. You're not calling to lobby for it. It really doesn't matter if you send an email with 1,500 reasons why they should do it. They're going to treat it the same way. They're going to take it, say, okay, they're a yes on this, or they're a no on this. They're going to go to their computer system, they're going to log it in for what it is. Yes on this, or no on this. And whenever that issue comes up for a vote or a committee hearing, they'll give those numbers. So what you do when you send an email or phone call you become one, you get added to their list of numbers. Now that's good. You know, if they go to vote on something, they have 300 people are for this and 5 people are against it, what does that tell them? That's important. So you want to be that number on a list. You really do. That's what the phone calls matter and the emails. You will get logged into the system. But if you want to talk about your reasons and possibly change minds, then you need a meeting with the staff, a meeting with the representative. You just show up and testify when you're invited, when there's a hearing. Everybody's invited to a public hearing, okay? You don't have to wait for a special invitation. That is your invitation, the fact that they're having a public hearing. So that's what you want to do. If at all possible. Think of it this way. The more effort you have to put into something, the more meaningful it is, right? Anybody, married to anybody, you realize that's kind of true? Okay? Also, enough efforts into advocacy, if they see there are enough of their constituents putting enough effort into a certain point of advocacy, that those people could affect their election if they all wanted to, that also is very meaningful, is it not? Right? So one person making a phone call is not going to have the effort to change an election. But 10 people showing up to a hearing, yes, those people could affect an election because that's enough effort into the thing. Yes?
Do you think it's a good idea also, like if you're a law student and you have an issue you want to advocate for, physically just go to their office and handing them a letter?
Right, that would be meeting with them. So either set up a meeting or drop by the office. But the personal contact, yes. Personal contact is very good. Having a one-pager to hand to them is very, very useful. Yes?
Do you have any suggestions for the situation where you want to talk to members of a committee who are considering a bill that you want to support, but chances are none of those people are my representative, and they generally don't like to talk to anybody that can't vote for them?
Okay, so what do you do if it's a committee member or committee chair? You're not their constituent, but they're still in charge of the bill and committee, right? You call them, you email them, you get enough people to do it to shut down their phone lines. The thing that's better about a phone call is it takes staff time. And if enough people are calling and taking staff time, that's going to get word back to their boss. Oh my gosh, I can't get anything done. Everybody's calling about this issue. You need to do something about it. So that's important. The other thing you can do is get on social media. Comment on their posts. Hey, what about this bill? That's great, you did this thing, but we're waiting on this bill. Because that's, again, calling them out in public and bringing attention to their constituents as well. Another great thing is actually get their constituents to go and talk to them. Help enable their constituents to do that. So all of those are great things. But yes, they'll tell you, oh no, we only listen to constituents. But you know what? If they're a committee chair, I don't care. I'm going to contact them because what they're doing affects me. So they need to listen to that. All right. What kind of a person are you? You didn't know this was going to be a psychology session, did you?
Conservative.
What kind of a person do you want to be? What kind of a person do you want your kids to be? And what kind of a person do you want your kids to see you be? I believe there's a very clear path to being the kind of activist who stands up strongly and boldly for what you believe in. You're going to go to those meetings and town halls and committee hearings. You're going to meet with those representatives. You're going to get out there and talk with people about this issue. You're going to make no bones about what you believe in. That we're safer if we get rid of the gun-free zones. More guns equal less crime is the way that John Locke puts it. That's very true. Statistically. You're going to make no bones about the fact that what you want is to get rid of the license requirements so that anybody who owns that handgun can carry it open or concealed, no permit required. And if somebody tells you that's unreasonable, you're not going to back down because you know it's true, you know it keeps us safer. You're going to keep talking about whatever the issue is, guns or life or something, whatever else the other thing is. You're going to talk about it boldly. And you're going to do so with professionalism, with class, with grace. You're going to be that kind of person who has the courage to boldly talk about the thing in the most professional, respectful manner. Because everybody you're talking to, they might disagree with you. They might strongly disagree with you. They might vehemently disagree with you and treat you with rabid contempt. But you know what? They're still a human being made in God's image. And you're still going to treat them as a human being, even if you don't feel like they're treating you as a human being. So that's the kind of activist that I want all of us to be. We don't back down from what we know to be true. And we do it with class. Boldness with grace. That is the kind of activism that is not only the kind of person I hope myself and each one of you wants to be, but also I believe is, in the end, the most effective activism. That's what I'm asking for you, as you boldly stand for the things you believe in. Let's move on, let's talk about committee hearings. Committee hearings, again, the time when you're invited to go and give your opinion on record. Well, rule number 1, show up. So I'm telling you lots of things like you have to go read the bill, and I'm going to talk about what you're going to wear, I'm going to talk about all these other things, okay? At the end of the day, if you don't do anything else, just show up. I'm going to guarantee you, there's going to be some night before a hearing, you're like, I'm so tired, I didn't wash my clothes, all I have is my jeans, everything's at the cleaners, the kids are sick, da-da-da. There are going to be a million reasons not to go. Don't forget about rule number 1, just show up, even if you haven't done anything else. Showing up is always better than not showing up. So rule number 1, show up. Rule number 2, be ready for anything. One example. I was preparing people a couple months ago for the red flag hearing to testify against red flag, and thank you to those of you who came down for that. That was great. We won, as was seen from the results. But anyway, I was preparing them for a very long hearing because the previous hearing had been like 9 hours. So I was like, be ready to stay here until dark. It's going to last a long time. Bring your food, your water, your 3-day supply and everything. And so a lot of people were like, okay, it's going to be forever, it's going to be all day, and they're ready for it. Some of them were like, it's going to be long, I'll just get there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they left from, Houston at 12 or 1 or whatever, and well, as it happened, the hearing was over at 1 that day. It lasted for maybe 4 hours max, and then it was over. So we weren't quite ready for that, right? I've been at hearings that lasted 13 hours. I've been at hearings that lasted, on one bill, 5 minutes or less. You step out to grab some food or to use the bathroom or to talk with your friend on the phone, and it's done. You missed your whole chance to testify. So be ready for all the extremes. I'm going to talk you through what it will probably be like, but there will always be some times when it's not. So just be ready, again, for anything. Okay, what are you going to take with you? So you're going to take with you, I say all your electronics. I always take my regular phone, I can text people on and call. I take my spare phone and I connect it to Wi-Fi, I put it on a tripod just like we're doing right now tonight, and I live stream it on Facebook so people can talk about it. But then it's kind of clunky to do the comments, so then I have my laptop so I can do work, so I can respond to people on Facebook and connect with them that way. Bring a tablet if you have one. Bring all the cords and all the power banks that you have, because you're going to run out of battery and you're going to wish you had those things. So if you have them, bring them. If you don't, that's fine. You don't need to, but they might make your stay a little more comfortable at the Capitol. Okay, also take a big warm winter parka because it is freezing cold in those hearing rooms. And if you've been there, you know this. So trust me, just take your jackets. And now that I've said that, there's going to be this one time when they're like the AC's out and it's boiling. I know this, but normally it's freezing cold. Dress professionally. I always say if you have a suit, wear a suit. Personally, I'm a jeans and flip-flops or shorts and flip-flops and a tank kind of a girl. That's me. That's my, that's my jam. But what am I going to wear when I go and testify? I'm going to wear a suit. I'm going to look nice. I'm going to look professional because that helps break down any barriers to what I'm saying. It presents me as the more credible witness, and I'm able to present my message more effectively. And that's what I'm about. I want to present my message effectively. If you don't have a suit, don't worry about it. You don't need to go buy new clothes for this. If all you have is jeans and a t-shirt and tennis shoes, wear that. And be clean and neat and act professional, and you'll be fine. But rule number 1, right, show up. Try to wear comfortable walking shoes too, because there's a little bit of walking. You can see over here the visitor parking garage. How many people have already been to the Capitol? I always like to ask. Okay, most everybody. So I like to park in the visitor parking garage, free for the first 2 hours, maximum $12 for the day. It's good. When you enter the Capitol, there's north, south, east, west. You can enter any of the entrances as long as it's not under construction, which they are right now. There's a metal detector, but if you have a license to carry a handgun that's valid, then you can carry. You just have to show the license. You can then carry open or concealed. If you don't have a license, you go through a metal detector, but anything that's legal outside is also legal inside. So your knives are fine, etc. Okay, most of the hearing rooms are in the underground extension, so you have to go to the north wing of the Capitol. There's only one wing where the elevators are, and you go find that wing and you go down the elevators. Incidentally, I'm going to give you a promise that I think will be always true. You will get lost in the Capitol.
Yep.
Okay, so the cheat sheet method is you just walk until you find your rotunda, you just go around the rotunda, whichever one it is, until you find the right spoke and you go out that spoke. It works every time. Trust me, I've been lost a lot of times in the Capitol. So, find the north wing, you go downstairs, you're in the underground extension, and you just keep walking until you find those hearing rooms that come off of the main corridor typically. And whenever there's a gun rights hearing, I try to put on a map so you can see where you're going. But again, keep walking, you'll find it. When you get there, you want to sign in. The Senate still has paper sign-in. The House has an electronic kiosk that's right behind the hearing room. Either way, you need to sign in with, I'm here on this bill, my position is for, against, or on. By the way, if you like a bill somewhat, but you want them to change some things, testify on. And tell them, hey, I like this, but please go change this before you can actually gain my support on this. We did that for licensed open carry. Everybody was like, oh, this is a huge deal, like this is so pivotal, this is like the best Second Amendment rights bill. We're like, nah, you're still requiring a license. We're not getting on board with that. We testified on it. More of us than testified for it, actually. And we said, yes, you should be able to open carry, but guess what? You shouldn't have to have a license to do so. And that stuck out. That's one of the reasons that constitutional carry ended up moving forward in the next section, I strongly believe. So you sign in, you say who you're representing. Again, you have to be authorized to represent them, but that's a good thing. Do I have any precinct chairs here? Okay, so if you're a precinct chair, check with your county party. You can even introduce a resolution saying that precinct chairs shall be authorized to testify concerning a certain issue, maybe anything in the Republican Party platform, maybe something specific to your county. Whatever your county decides, okay, it's up to your county. But if your CEC votes to allow you to represent the county party at a hearing, you can do that. I'm so-and-so, I'm representing Tarrant County Republican Party for this thing, right? And that's a great thing that you can do. But you have to get their permission. You can't do it just because you're a precinct chair. So make sure you're passing those resolutions now ahead of session. Maybe you want to do it for the priorities, but whatever your issue is, see if you can get a coalescence and an agreement from your CEC on that. Okay, this is what the hearing room looks like. If you have a paper card, you just go hand it to that clerk who's right there in the right corner. If you have any questions, just go ask the clerk anytime. He's great too. There's people watching the hearing. In the previous one, you see there was a panel of 4 witnesses up there. Usually there will be 4 at a time if it's a big hearing, or if it's just a small hearing, there will be 1 person at a time. So that's all that they need. There will be some kind of microphone. Speak into the microphone because you have to get very close to them. And if you want people in the room and on the live stream to hear you, you gotta be eating that mic. So do that. All right. There's a lot of waiting time, right? When you're waiting for everybody else to testify. Usually each person gets 2 minutes. That's it. Sometimes 3, sometimes 5. If you can make them ask enough questions, you can maybe get more time. That's it. So what you want to do is make the most of the time you have there. Besides just the 2 minutes of talking, find your people. So you're going to go up to them. I always like to have these bright green 2-way stickers. And so bring buttons or stickers or something to identify your issue. And before the hearing starts, you're not annoying people during the hearing, right? But before the hearing starts, while everybody's waiting, walk up and say, "Hi, sir. Would you like the sticker for Second Amendment rights?" And if they say, "Oh, no, I'm not for that." Well, take a rejection. You can identify them. They're not gun rights, and you move on. "Well, hi, ma'am. Would you like a 2-way sticker for the gun rights?" And she says, "Yes, I'd love one." You say, "Great. Now I have a new ally." You get them on your mailing list, right? You exchange business cards. You get their information. You stay in touch because that's now your ally. That's somebody who's willing to come to Austin and drive there and be there for this issue you care about. You should be friends. You should be BFFs. So find those people. Also, you want as many people as possible wearing your stickers, or t-shirts, or buttons, or hats, or whatever the thing is that you have, right? Because optically, the committee looking out sees that, oh, most of the people are wearing these stickers. They all support this thing. That tells me something. You get a panel of 4 people up. We had this at the red flag hearing. 2 or 3 people out of, I think, every single panel of 4 were wearing that two-way sticker. The majority of people, I think 2 to 4 people, sometimes it was 3, sometimes it was 4 people on the panel, all were there in favor of gun rights against red flag. What does that tell the committee? There's a lot of people who don't want red flag. So you do that. Be the ambassador. If you're the annoying, obnoxious person who's just making a racket and being nasty to people and letting doors slam or eating Cheetos or whatever, which you should never do in the hearing room, well, you get up to testify, guess what? You make everybody else on that issue look bad. So don't be that idiot who makes everybody else look bad. Be the ambassador for your issue. Make everybody else who's there for the issue look good. Yes, sometimes it's a sacrifice. I'd rather sit there and slouch in the corner and not talk to anybody and wear a baseball cap. That's me. That's what I'd rather do. But do I do that? No, because it makes my issue look bad. I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to people. But I have to be nice to people when I'm there. So whatever your thing is, make the sacrifice. Be an ambassador for your issue. And then expect the unexpected, because I promise it'll happen and you'll just have to deal with it. Okay, preparing testimony. Make sure you read the bill if at all possible. I hate it when people get up and testify for something the bill isn't even doing. I hate it when you're doing this bill because you're going to make this happen. Well, the bill doesn't even do that. So don't be that idiot who doesn't know what they're talking about. Read the agenda, but understand that they're not going to really follow the order, so that could definitely change. And then, you said at the beginning, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm testifying for, against, or on HB 375. I'm representing myself and gun owners in America, right? Or whatever it is you're authorized. So you need to say those words. They'll be looking for those words at the beginning. So if you don't say them, the committee chair will stop you and make you say them, which is helpful, but it also is flustering, so it's better to just know them straight up. Okey-doke. What are we looking at?
A brain.
A brain. We're looking at the brain because when you testify, it's your job to convince the people who are listening to you to agree with you, to convince their minds. You have to change their minds. You have to make their minds agree with you. Yes, the facts this person is presenting are correct. So how do you do that? You give them the facts. You give them the statistics. You give them the information, the pieces, and the logic that they may not have been able to piece together. So a new piece of information, a new fact, a new train of logic. Help them understand. Make their minds agree with you. Now I got a question. How many of y'all know anybody who's ever started a diet or exercise plan ever? Yeah, we all know somebody, right? Okay, maybe yes, maybe not. Okay, how many of y'all know somebody who started the plan and didn't stick with it? We don't know anybody like that, do we? What? We know a few of those people. Okay, what? Did they change their minds? They say, I now have a revelation, it is not healthy to exercise. No, they didn't change their minds, but there's another aspect. So in addition to changing minds, you got to change hearts. And how do you do that? There has to be some kind of emotional connection, right? Some kind of meaning to it. So for everybody who stayed on that diet or exercise program, I would be willing to bet you money that there was some kind of meaning that made them stick with it. Maybe they're just competitive, and they're preparing for a race and they want to make sure they win. That competitiveness worked for them. Maybe their older brother just died of a heart attack, or almost did, and their daughter's expecting their first grandkid, and they want to be around for the grandkid, right? Whatever it is, there's some kind of emotional impact or meaning just above the mental agreement of, yes, that's the right thing. You got to have both. Because we're not about emotional hype without the facts, right? We're not the ones who come in and say, I'm a woman, guns scare me, get rid of the guns, you got to listen to me just because I'm a woman. Okay? We don't come in with our scary stories without facts to back it up. What do? We come in with our facts and the truth, and we give a story that illustrates the truth. You put a face on it, you humanize it, you tell that story so they realize the human impact. Either how our lives will be positively impacted if you do this thing, or how they are currently negatively impacted. You have both. You convince the minds, and you convince the hearts. And you make it concrete. I've heard people get up there and testify for 2 whole minutes, saying things like, we've got to care more about our kids. We have to really care about our kids. Why don't we care about our kids enough? We have to keep our kids safe, to do whatever it takes to make our kids safe for 2 whole minutes. Guess what? people on the gun side and the no gun side who actually agree with all of those statements. And I had no clue for the whole 2 minutes through where this person was, because I missed at the beginning he said he was for or against. And still he finished, and I had no idea if he was for or against the issue. So don't be that guy. I bet you that guy knew 100% in his head what that meant, what he meant by keeping our kids safe. But you know what? He wasn't concrete. It was too vague. He didn't communicate accurately to make it clear to everybody listening what he meant. I guarantee you, if you spend time studying an issue, all those foreign concepts and words and big words and things you got to study with, those are going to be second nature to you. You're going to forget that not everybody knows what they mean. So you have to, preferably before you testify, let somebody listen to you who has no idea or doesn't even care about the thing you're talking about, and see if they understand what you're saying. Whether or not they're convinced, if they know what it is you're trying to do. And if they don't, you probably need to go back and make it more concrete and more specific and break it down. The other thing, try to keep in mind is build a ramp, make it accessible. So a lot of times, I might just go in and say, you know what, just get rid of the license requirement. We don't need it. Get rid of it. It's smart. Just get rid of it. Is that true? Is that accurate? Yes. Does that convince everybody? Well, not always. Why? Some people might feel like, that means that felons are going to be able to carry it. Well, I have to build that ramp. They actually know it's only people who are currently able to have a handgun, carry it in their car, driving around town. We're not talking about the felons who can't have a gun. We could discuss that another day, but for this bill, this is all that this bill does. So let's talk about this bill, right? You build a ramp. They might have other objections. Well, that's going to mean that everybody, guns are randomly going off places. Okay, so you come up with facts to meet those objections. You build in the ramp to get to where they need to be. You help, so for most of us, stepping up that step to that door, would that be an issue? No, we could just walk right up and step up to the door without a ramp, right? But somebody in a wheelchair, that one step is insurmountable. Unless they have somebody who lifts them up over it or to build the ramp. So for a lot of times, because the things we care about, it just makes sense. Just like, take that step, why not? You're going to have a better result in getting people actually up that step if you build them whatever ramp they need to get there. And I'm not saying it's on us to always baby our legislators and say, well, poor things, they couldn't get there, I understand. No, we're not doing that. But if you want actual results, okay, if you want to be effective in your activism, if they have an objection, meet that objection. Answer it. Get rid of it so it's not an objection anymore. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, few tips for delivering testimony. You want to have one thing you're saying. Now, what if there are 10 great reasons for getting rid of property taxes? Don't say them all. Say one reason, give them the facts on that one reason, give them the story on that reason, make it concrete, make it accessible, but give them one thing. Know it and deliver it. What about the other 10 things or 9 things? That's why we have friends. Bring all your friends to give all the other reasons, right? Break it up. Who's going to talk about what reason? Or if you don't have friends with you that day, write out a piece of paper. Give your 2 minutes of testimony and say, I've got 9 more reasons on that sheet of paper I gave you. Please take a look at that. Written testimony is also great if you have a lot of data and charts or references. You don't want to read them all out. Say 97.3% of mass shootings since 1950 have been in a place where guns weren't allowed. And you can see the data on that in my handout. Go look through it, go fact check everything else you wrote. It's great. So I encourage that highly. Know the beginning and know the ends. Especially if you've got 2 minutes, I encourage you to write out the whole thing and practice it and time it and drill it so that you know it well and follow that script. But just in case, you end up with, you thought it was going to be 3 minutes and now it's 2, make sure you know the last 10 or 15 seconds really, really well and you know where it is. So if you see the timer that's hopefully sitting there on the table where it's supposed to be, you see that timer and you realize you have 15 seconds left and you realize you're only, partway through your testimony, you can jump to the end and you can finish strong. Because nobody wants to kind of fizzle out right in the middle of, point to a something, right? You have your strong conclusion, you want to read it. And you don't want to go over time, because what happens if the timer starts beeping and somebody keeps talking? Are we really intrigued in what they have to say? No, we want them to shut up and move on, right? Okay, so you don't advance your cause by talking after your time's up. So make sure you know where to jump. And you know what? Who's the one most qualified to give your opinion to the legislators? Is it me, the lobbyist? No, it's you. If you're living and breathing and you have an opinion, you are the one most qualified to give that opinion. There are things you can do to polish and to present it a little bit better, which is why I'm giving this training, but you are still most qualified to give that opinion, even if you're not the best Texas expert, even if you don't have all the answers to all the questions. If they ask you a question, it's perfectly acceptable to say, you know, I don't have an answer to that, but I still want you to do this. Or to say, I'll check on that, and can I get back with you? Can I have a meeting with you next week? Or to say, I haven't prepared to speak to that today, but I'll be happy to look that up and give your staff the data on that. Any of those things are great. Not showing up is not great. So rule number 1, show up, because you are qualified. And, let's skip that. Okay, what can you do from home? So, we've already established we can't be in Austin every single week for every single year, right? So what can you do from home? You can watch the live streams. Remember how I showed you where the live streams are on that front page? You can go watch it. You can Google House Committee audio video. And you'll find it. You can see all the archives, but you can also watch the live stream of what's happening right then. Post it on Facebook, in this group, or on your own page. Tag the person who's testifying. Thank you, so-and-so, for being here. Oh, Representative, so-and-so anti-gun or just said that nobody should have guns and AR-15s are scary. We need more people at the Capitol to testify against that stuff and testify in favor of gun rights, right? Be there and testify, or be there morally and share what they're doing. Now think about this. Okay. What resources do you have? What if you had a group of, let's say this group right here, and you have, a lot of you who work and can't drive down to Austin very much one time, but the rest of the time you can't? But can you give gas money? Can you give a car? Because you're going to have some people who have the time to go down more, maybe they don't have gas money. They don't have a reliable car. Maybe they could go, but they don't really know what to say for this issue because this isn't really their issue. But if you help them out and help them with the testimony and prep them on it, take a little bit of your time in the evenings when you're free, you can send them down to testify. Then there's somebody there from your group testifying on the thing that your group cares about, even if you aren't there. So you can have that active presence even if you yourself personally aren't there. Okay, how many people are in this room? Somebody give me a good estimate about numbers. 40? Okay. So 5 months of session, there aren't going to be 5 months of committee meetings. There's committee meetings, say if it's mostly March and April, if it's or May, say if you have 10 weeks of committee hearings, you get 4 people to go down each week. Carload of 4 people, 1 day a week, and you do your carload and you're done. But you have people there from this group every single week, all through session. How much of an impact could this group have? Your group could have a profound impact on passing legislation. Or maybe you decide you're going to go have a lobby day. So you plan it in advance and you all go down and you all talk to a bunch of legislators. Hey, we're from, we're probably Fort Worth, and here are the things that we're interested in. Please pass these issues. And you visit everybody, right? Or you join with other groups around Texas. So compile your resources. I'm not asking you to give what you don't have or what you can't. You're the ones who know what resources you have. But if you have a resource and you care about an issue, pool those resources so you can together do the things that you care about. All right. If you fell asleep during the whole entire presentation, now is your chance to wake up, and I'm going to give you the 3 things that you cannot fail to do for any issue that you really care about. Number 1, come to a hearing. How many of y'all are more convinced now of how effective it is to attend a committee hearing? Good. How many of y'all are going to pledge to come to Austin at least one time to one committee hearing? Good. I'm going to hold you to it. I have special glasses that take a picture of everybody and tag you. I'm going to be checking up on you, okay? I'm looking for it. I'm going to be linking all the committee lists for Project Fort Worth. I want you guys there. Or whatever other organizations here too as well. Whatever your organization is, I'm going to be looking for that, okay? I want you guys there. You can make a difference. On the days that you can't come, well, make sure enough people from your area do come to those hearings. Number 2, call. And we've already established one person calling isn't necessarily going to do a lot, But floods of phone calls, 100% can change political winds. Here's one example. 2015, we wanted to pass licensed open carry was a thing that we've been working on, even though we wanted constitutional. At the beginning of the session, Lieutenant Governor Patrick said that they were going to be so pro-gun, they were going to pass campus carry, and they were going to just be great in the Senate. But he also said that Texas was not yet ready for licensed open carry. And we said, well, that's really interesting because we have thousands of people who say otherwise. And we delivered 10 or 15,000 petitions to his doorstep, and we shut down his office phone lines with phone calls, hundreds if not thousands. And guess what happened 2 or 3 days later? There was another statement. And guess what this statement said? The time is right for open carry in Texas. What does that tell us? The flood of phone calls can change political winds. Let them know, you know what? We need to do this thing because enough people want this. It's political suicide not to. So be ready for that. But how are you going to know when there's an important hearing? How are you going to know if somebody's stalling and needs a lot of phone calls to get a bill moving? Well, here's how you do it. You get action alerts from the organization that is tracking with your issue. So if it's gun rights you care about, as long as if you sign up on Eventbrite for this, and you check that you wanted the action alerts, you're good. You'll be on my action alert list that I'll send out. If you didn't, make sure you have that sign-in sheet. There's one at the very correct table. There's one at the table in this room in the back. Make sure you're on that alert list so you get the notices of, hey, there's a hearing coming up on constitutional carry or school carry or something else. Sign up with other organizations who care about the things you care about so that you're getting those issues. And I'm also going to say, if you feel like those alerts are going to be valuable to you, because I'm going to be reading every single word of every single one of those gun bills. I'm going to be writing the analysis. I'm going to be writing talking points for all of the gun bill hearings and writing the maps and putting out all the information. So it's so easy. I'm doing all the legwork for you. So all you have to do is just show up or just pick up the phone or just send that email. If you feel like that's valuable, if you feel like this training is valuable, if you feel like I'm actually representing the grassroots and not just going and doing like the rich lobbying thing, but I'm really trying to represent the grassroots and help you make your voice heard, I'm going to ask you if you would be able to give a donation tonight to help me keep going. I'm traveling all around Texas to try to give this training to enable the grassroots to make your voice heard on gun rights or on any issue. Because there's no reason that stuff I'm doing for gun rights shouldn't help everybody on all the issues that protect our liberties. That's my goal. So if that's valuable to you, I'd love if you could show your support by giving 10 or 15 bucks. That's very useful. If you want to bump it up to 20, I can credit you for a GOA donation. There is a donation box in the back. If you put in at least 20, and if you want to be credited for a membership, make sure I have your information. I'll try to be by the table. I just need to mark down that it was you who put the cash in, or if it's a check, then that's fine. I'll have that there. But if you thought this was valuable, I would appreciate that very much. If you can't give 10 or 15 bucks, I'm still so glad you're here tonight. I'm really grateful you took the time out of an evening because there are so many other things you could have been doing. But you're here learning how to testify. You're here learning to be an activist. And the greatest reward for me and the greatest value is if you show up in Austin during legislative session. And I cannot wait to see you there. I'm super excited about all the things that we can accomplish for liberty. And the question is, well, can we do it? The answer is what? Yeah. Yes, if we do it together, if we all dance together. So thank y'all so much for letting me be here. Thank you so much.